stuff.
What would you guys do?
I was just about to check. I was like, did he go live yet?
I just did, of course.
Let's go.
Look, the Sky Pool. What player do you think most represents the Sky Pool?
What, were you just nervous to touch him? But he could be very rewarding. And
yeah, like it seems fucking fun. You could be swimming in a sky pool made of glass with some hot babes, but also you could just break through the floor and then die.
Can I say Ezekiel Elliott without people taking that the wrong way?
No.
I think we're gonna have a big time Zeke conversation, right? Because my guy Andrew here said that it would be. Ironically, he said this, I think, one day after I invited you to the show, so you wouldn't have been invited if I'd seen it prior. But he said that anyone ranking Zeke outside the top 5 was committing a crime against humanity. Is that the correct phrase?
Yes, that's how the social team took it.
Wow, so you're blaming it on the social team.
Hey, I also said, so in the post, it specifically says, or my quote specifically says, ranking Zeke in the top 5, which is different than drafting Zeke in the top 5 because you're looking again,
right.
Still value. There's still value.
Don't worry about it. It's not like we're live. So I just want you to say that you are extremely upset with Pro Football Focus's social team for lying to the public about your take. Is that what you're saying? Don't worry, it's off the record.
No, I'll embrace it.
It is not off the record
because I know we're live. So yeah, no, I'm all for Zeke.
That red button, that means not live, right?
The red button means we're not live.
Just because you say something's off the record, you can't do that. You can't lie to guests and tell them shit's off the record.
Who the fuck are you, Shannon Sharp?
I'm just saying. Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the Sky Bridge.
Kyle Pitts is the Sky Bridge.
Or the Sky Pool.
No, Kyle Pitts is like a nice, girthy tower of power.
God. And on that note, let's go.
Oh, man.
No, what do you think? Look, this is
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
What is up, everybody? How are we doing? Welcome in to another beautiful Tuesday. We got Chase here, as always, rocking. And it looked deeper, the V-neck, when we first went live. There it was, rocking a shallow V. We got Shane, who's wearing the same thing he's worn the last 15 Tuesdays. And we got Andrew, rocking the crew cut. Andrew Erickson from Pro Football Focus. How are you doing? Welcome into Dynasty Intervention.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk some Dynasty fantasy football and maybe get a little bit off the rails.
Oh, we're definitely going to go off the rails. Speaking of off the rails, Shane's here. How are you doing, Shane?
No. We're gonna keep things our level-headed best tonight. We're not going to talk about Kyle Pitts' girthiness. That's unacceptable. I'm good. Let's do some football stuff.
Shane, I actually, because I'm a good co-host, I listened to the last episode of your last podcast, and the first 5 minutes of it were spent talking about killing birds with guns. So I just want to make clear that you're not exactly the one here to keep us on track.
I think I blame that on the editing. I don't know that I said any of those things or talked about it at all. So I'll blame the editor, Michael Sipes.
Mike,
right,
you hear that? You hear that, Mike?
Blaming the social team. We got Shane blaming his co-hosts. Chase, Vernon, the bearded man with the deep V. How are you doing tonight?
I'm blaming you for wearing the deep V because I lost track of time and it's all your fault. That's what I'm blaming you for. But now
I'm in charge of time. What am I, Pope Gregory?
At least you need to message me and say, hey, Chase, change out your deep V, okay? We're getting close to the showtime. That's what your responsibility needs to be from here on out.
All right. Well, first off, I have a question for you, Chase. Right. So I'm drinking a nice little Moosehead. I know that people are always interested what beer we're rocking. If you are into the Moosehead line of products, here's a little cheat. Moosehead Radlers are 4%. So if you want to go with a Radler, you go with a Moosehead Radler. You guys thought I was joking about adding this to show sheet, but I totally wasn't. Edmonton's Canadian Football League team, they were the Eskimos. They had to rename their football team from the Eskimos because it was offensive. So they had to rename it to the Elks. Chase, you're a fan of the artist formerly known as the Washington Redskins. Is Elks a better name than football team?
Oh, that's tough. So, all right, I was thinking about this the other day. I was actually at work and I was talking with this guy. We were just talking about how if Washington somehow won, right? Like, let's just hypothetically say their Ryan Fitzpatrick was catching on fire. The offense was clicking. The defense looked just like they did last year, if not better, because, a lot of these players are becoming veterans now. Like, let's just hypothetically say they make it to a Super Bowl and possibly win a Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying, what if they do? They can never change their name after that.
Right.
Like, I mean, they can't. Like, it'll be Washington Football Team forever. And I will be I'll be just in bad shape after that. I'll be like, just a butthurt little kid, just sitting there like I got picked last, for hockey, as you would probably prefer. But yeah,
we're not going to make hockey talk after what happened with the Leafs in Game 7. Hockey's banned from the show forever now.
Yes, I love that.
Good.
Hey,
what do
Shane,
you guys think?
Do
you think football team is like a legit name? Are they just keeping that forever?
I like football team. I think it's very international. It's better than calling them a club, like when the MLS or whatever started up here, the
Toronto Football
America's
Club.
Soccer League. And everybody decided they were going to use club. They're like, oh no, it's Seattle FC. Like, what? No.
Aren't they the Seattle Sounders?
Well, whatever. I don't know. I don't pay attention. It's soccer. It's stupid. Football team's fine. Football team's fine. I'd rather they were like the Washington baseball team, like just something that made no sense. You know what I mean?
I mean, we're better than what? The Packers now and the Browns, and I think that's about it, right? The Packers and the Browns when it comes to team name. Because
what's
the Packers,
worst team name in sports, Andrew?
Oh, wait, the Jets really bad too.
Sports? Oh, you put me on the spot. Well, I do like Washington Football Team. I hated the name when they first announced it. I was like, that's so stupid. But then I realized I could use the acronym in my writing, WTF, or actually WFT, sorry.
That's why we don't like it.
That's the problem. That's the problem. As someone like with a little bit of dyslexia, it's problematic.
Oh, man, the worst sports team. Oh, man, I can't think of one on the top of my head.
It's the Utah Utes, right? It should be the Utah Utes.
Oh, I think the Utah Jazz is kind of stupid. I mean, there's no Jazz.
That's pretty dumb.
The Jazz is in New Orleans. They just kept it.
Yeah, like why? How do you not change your name? Like Utah. Yeah, when I think of like soulful jazz music, I think of Utah.
Bunch of Mormons. What if they rebranded the Book of Mormon and mashed it up with La La Land? So it was about someone from New Orleans who moved to Utah to follow the basketball team. And then they found a Mormon played by Ryan Gosling who wanted to keep jazz as a thriving music genre in the city of Salt Lake City.
What are we doing here? What is happening?
This is the good stuff. This is what people want to see.
I'm going to the show sheet. So it's good that the Elks have gone ahead and changed their name to the Elks.
All right, Andrew, we're finally going to get to some actual football talk because Chase and Shane are trying to force my hand here. Look, first of all, tell us about yourself a little bit here. How did you get your start coming in and ultimately landing with Pro Football Focus?
Yeah, so I have worked at Pro Football Focus now for a full year. Just like it was actually like a year yesterday that I've been with the company for full time. But I used to work for them part-time doing base data analyst. So I would analyze the games as part of their processing in terms of how they grade games. So I wouldn't do any grading technically, but I was just another kind of cog in the process of collecting data because they have so many different eyes looking at games to collect certain things, whether you're recording the line of scrimmage on a certain play, whether you're recording where the quarterback throws the ball. Like that was something that I did a lot of. I had a hand in playing for about 2 seasons, and that kind of got my foot in the door, to kind of use a cliche, but that got me a connection. And then I started going to more of the conferences that fantasy has. I went to the FSGA. I went to the Fantasy Football Expo that they had, I think it was 2 years ago because they didn't have one last year. And I met Jet Ratcliffe at multiple of those. And I was able to build like a rapport with him because he had known that I had done base data with them. And I always talked to him about, is there any openings with fantasy? He's like, not right now, but I'll obviously let you know if anything opens up. And eventually something did open up. And so when I was hired, like I was supposed to like work with Jeff, but ultimately he ended up moving on to another opportunity, but that wasn't like part of his like plan necessarily. It kind of just happened that way. So yeah, I memean, that's kind of how I ended up at PFF. I mean, I've been doing writing for a couple other websites like Gridiron Experts, Fantasy Data, a couple other places. Like when I just wanted to get into it to start, because that's what I usually tell people. It's like, look, you got to like just put out some type of content to start with. And writing's usually like a pretty decent start. And then you obviously evolve into doing podcasts and video and things like that. But yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of not a super exciting story, but it's just a matter of it's about who you know. Like that's literally how it is. It's in fantasy. It's in any job that I've had. It's because it's either my sister knew this person or my dad knew this person. It's like,
so if I'm an only child, am I fucked?
I mean, it's not.
A sister to know people.
It's not as easy. It's good if you're a social person. And again, obviously, COVID kind of made it a lot tougher to be social. But if you're good on camera, good on Zoom calls, then you should be all set.
And that's awesome. What do you think is the biggest helpful aids from all of, because PFF, right? I mean, I think it's only recently really that people have thought about PFF as a fantasy site as well, right? It's been more seen as that real life football site. Obviously, everybody knows about PFF's grades. What do you think is the biggest application of the wholesome product that PFF puts together that people can apply for fantasy, even if they're not working at Pro Football Focus? Yeah,
I think some of the premium stats have kind of caught on to more of the normal user base of football fans and fantasy fans. I think like yards per route run, like that's something that has been pretty popularized, is now like a really sticky stat of like indicating a good receiver, like an efficient receiver, not using yards per reception. Like that's not as good, or yards per target. Like that's not as good. Like yards per route run is better. Just like routes run in general. Like we didn't have this data before. Like we only had targets. Oh, but now we can look at routes, which is kind of the next prior step to a target. How many routes is this player running? Okay, like that's why they're not getting targeted. Okay, that's why they're going to get more targets, because they're running a lot of routes, looking for opportunities. Offensive line play, like quantifying that. It's like, look, I'm not an offensive line expert. Most of us aren't. Like we don't have time to watch these five guys block, but it's good to know that X team has the first ranked offensive line versus this team that has the 32nd ranked offensive line. So quantifying the offensive line, I think, is really helpful for people, so especially for fantasy, from the two ends of the spectrum. And then I think the last couple of things, like slot rate, like what players play in the slot, who goes deep, who's a vertical receiver, based on not necessarily perception, but what are the numbers saying? Like, so I think there's a lot more predictiveness that goes into what we can now watch and see how a player is actually used, as opposed to, okay, I think this is how this player is used. Like it goes way beyond. Again, like go beyond the box score.
No, I like that. I've actually was using PFF and talking to John McCree.
IDP.
Yep.
IDP,
We're actually just talking about.
Shane, you can leave the show now if we're going to talk about IDP.
Good night, guys.
No, it wasn't about IDP. It was about contested catches, what qualified as a drop versus like an actual like legitimate not catchable pass. At what point did you guys draw the line? It was interesting to go through different, videos with him and speak to, which one he was qualifying as a drop pass versus, non-catchable target. So that was fun. It was interesting. You guys do a great job over there with deciphering those things.
Cool.
I like slot rate. I love looking at the slot rate. It's probably going to be interesting for this class. That'll be very useful for this rookie class, since everybody and their mom's a slot receiver in this class.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andrea Sanderson. Her slot win rate is like 88%.
Slot. Such a slot.
Such a slot.
What are you trying to do? That's like creepy. Slot. Slot.
So.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the news of the week here. Not a whole ton. It's been a little bit of a quiet week. I guess that's because it's been May, so people are out there doing things with their lives. But let's do some quick hitters here. Seems a long way back, but it was between our last recording and now. Todd Gurley visited the Lions. Everyone lost their fucking mind. He still has not signed with the Lions. What do we make of this? Is anyone, where are people at on Swift right now? Are you still holding firm, or are you thinking that this might truly be a bit of a muddled situation? I mean, my opinion is out there pretty clear, but Andrew, what's your take on Swift for 2021, but especially for Dynasty going forward?
I think that if someone's freaking out about Swift, you just buy him now. That's first thing I did when Jamal Williams got traded or signed with the Lions. Tried to set an offer to the DeAndre Swift owner, didn't work. Mm-hmm. But eventually, they keep adding running backs, and maybe they don't start out so hot. Swift gets out touched by Jamal Williams. Like, that's probably going to happen in some games. Like, Jamal Williams probably going to get either equal touches or maybe even out carry Swift this season on the ground. And people are going to overreact to that and think, oh my God, like he's done. But like, Swift is clearly the better talent. And if you get in a different coaching staff or what else could happen, I just think that it makes sense to buy him in a dynasty context. I think this year, Jamal Williams is a really good value in redraft formats and in a dynasty context as well, because he's a running back that's probably going to flirt with double-digit touches, and he's not really treated like that from a value perspective.
Shane, what do you make of Todd Gurley and that bag of bones going up to the Motor City?
Todd Gurley shouldn't scare anyone. It does concern me again. I worry about decision making and the thought processes. Why they feel the need to even bring Todd Gurley in. Like, you can't tell that he was completely washed last year. Like, he's done. He's vapor. Like, there's nothing left of that man. Like. So that concerns me more, that they apparently want to keep loading the running back room. But on the bright side, the offense is so barren of pass catchers that it almost doesn't matter. There's almost no way that Swift doesn't see at least 90 targets. So that's fine that Jamal Williams might have some weeks where, he out touches them. Because as long as Swift is the one being out targeted, I'm fine with that. Being the one getting most of the targets.
Chase, I have a theory. Do you watch Harry Potter?
Okay. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so do you remember the first movie in Harry Potter, I guess also the first book, where Voldemort is possessing Professor Quirrell, and Quirrell, in order to stay alive, he keeps drinking unicorn blood? I think that's what the Lions are doing. I think that they have to keep bringing in these injured running backs with bad knees, and then they bite their kneecaps off like they're drinking unicorn blood, and that's how they stay healthy. So they did that with Kerryon Johnson. They bit his knees right off. He doesn't have them anymore. He's going to Philadelphia without knees, right? And then they were like, who else has some knees that we can bite off? Oh, Todd Gurley. His knees are junk anyways. He's going to give those knees up, right? It's like he's like an organ donor in the black market. He's just selling knees to people in need. Chase, do you think that's what's happening? Are they running some sort of knee harvesting organization?
I think it's an interesting thing to bring up. Knee harvesting.
It's a great theory. It's a great theory.
It actually just made me think about like the whole South Park episode with like the dolphin knees or whatever it was. But yeah, I haven't seen that.
He's talking about the Lions, not the Dolphins.
So that made me think of the Christopher Reeves episode when he was eating stem cells out of babies, but that's
okay. All right, we're getting way off track here. All right, so
Andrew, you got a reference for us or what?
All right, so real quick for Anthony Lynn, right? Anthony Lynn obviously was not calling the plays for the Chargers. However, he had a major influence in the game plan every week. Like, they ran the offense that he wanted to run, but he was not calling the plays. He still said that he called about 30% of the plays while in game, especially when it came to major decisions. Well, major decisions also included the plays that he called inside the 5. Well, inside the red zone, Melvin Gordon between 2017 and 2019 played, 38 games, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. He saw 29 red zone carries during that time. Austin Eckler, from 2017 to 2019, played in 46 games. He saw just 15. So sitting there and looking at it. Oh, and by the way, Joshua Kelly and Kalen Ballage just last year alone saw 15 carries compared to just Eckler's 2. So sitting there and looking at it, obviously they're going to end up using Jamal Williams in the red zone, which is going to be a major hit to the value of DeAndre Swift because, he scored a few times from inside of there. But they are going to be using Swift a lot in the slot. I think Austin Eckler saw over 100 snaps, I believe, last year in the slot. Yeah, and he only played 10 games. So he's going to be involved, whether Jamal Williams is on the field or not. He still could end up being involved. And, we have a lot of people sitting there talking about how Amon St. Raw could be the next Cooper Kupp, right? Like that's the next slot receiver that's going to be big over there. I wouldn't be surprised if DeAndre Swift actually played a very large role in the slot and could play some of the same type of plays with Jared Goff, because he does trust that position so much, that we saw there. Plus, Anthony Lynn obviously was a huge fan of Keenan Allen. Maybe I'm not saying that Swift is the same route runner as these guys or anything like that, but he can do a lot with the ball in his hands. And up against a weak side linebacker, you're talking about a significant mismatch. Even a strong safety to an extent, you could see a significant mismatch when the ball gets into his hands. I would love to see
maybe
DeAndre
against a
Swift.
weak safety, but against a strong safety.
I like it. I think that he.
Come on, Chase. It's a joke.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I was about. Missed it. I thought you were talking about the weak side linebacker. But no,
I'm just trying to be a dad.
Nope. I definitely think that Swift has a significant advantage when they have the ball between the 20s. What I'm worried about is the ball once they get inside the 20s, and it makes me just a little bit concerned about his upside. Now, as for Todd Gurley, I think there's updated their emergency report. If Jamal Williams goes down in training camp, they want to see where Todd Gurley's at with his knees, et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't expect them to sign him at least up until training camp minimum, like at the very earliest. They have no reason to bring him in.
Well, we'll get back to Swift in a little bit here because we're going to be talking about buying, selling running backs. Swift's on the list, so I'm going to put a pin in that for a second. I just want people to think that they still might be harvesting these for the black market. I still think that's in play. Other quick news. Yeah, Dustin, I want to talk about it, bro. Anyway, other quick news. Saquon Barkley apparently might have his workload capped. What is the highest RB slot? Or let's just kick it off. So we're going to talk about buys and sells at running backs. And Saquon Barkley, Dynasty right now, he's the RB3. Report came out that his workload might be limited early in the season as he comes back off that knee injury. So he wouldn't be a fit in Detroit. Doesn't have any knees. Does this concern you? Are you buying or selling Saquon Barkley as the RB3 in Dynasty? And are you concerned about that early season workload? And we'll start it with Shane because he's shaking his head.
No, I'm not worried. I'm more concerned that, he hasn't played a full season since 2000. But the upside is still there. Like we saw in that 1 year when he was healthy, it was really good. So I'm still holding on to that. I don't think you need to, and we're going by ADP. I don't think you actually have to pay RB3 prices for him, to be honest with you. I think you can probably get him lower than that. But looking at some of the guys that follow him in ADP, yeah, I'm fine with Saquon Barkley's price.
And let's combine this here with Barkley and with Taylor, who Jonathan Taylor has usurped him. He's now the RB2 in Dynasty ADP. Andrew, you're on the board in a Dynasty startup. And let's say that you want to go running back. Are you buying Taylor or buying Barkley at that RB2 slot?
I'll buy Taylor. He's younger. And I think the Colts have a better structure set up. The Giants could have a whole new quarterback next year, and their offensive line still hasn't gotten. They didn't address it this year either. So there should be a lot of change where I feel more confident that the Colts kind of know what they're doing. And yeah, Taylor doesn't have any injuries. Now, I don't have any concerns about it. I think this year, I think Barkley could definitely outscore him this year. See how it goes. But if Taylor just has if Taylor does what he does again, if he repeats what he did last year, then it's you're going to feel pretty good about having him. So.
Absolutely. Barkley still your 3?
Yes.
Not Zeke?
Not in Dynasty. No.
All right, Chase, buy or sell on Taylor and Barkley, and which one would you prefer if you were on the clock?
This is a little bit tougher for me, obviously, with Dynasty. I'm probably leaning more towards Jonathan Taylor. Huge Jonathan Taylor fan, have been since he was in college. I think that,
Why wasn't I given this choice, by the way?
Because I find that the round table format, if I just ask 3 people the exact same question, gets really boring and flaccid. So
with 2 of them?
No.
Okay.
So then I work back to you. So then I ask questions, and then I add different layers. I go to the next person, and then I work back to you, so it has a more fluid flow in the show. You were gonna get asked it.
That explanation took forever. Chase, what were you saying?
No, I still got to go Jonathan Taylor. I do like Saquon Barkley a lot. I might even have Saquon by the time the season starts ahead of Christian McCaffrey. We have to see how it lines up.
I do.
I think that Saquon Barkley with breakaway run potential is like a significant piece to this offense. And although there's saying the reports he might start out slower, I think they're going to hold back a lot of these running backs at the beginning of the year because we are going to an extra game, in the schedule. So I think that's in everybody's plans. I just think that it's, kind of taken into more, I guess, a bigger piece, or essentially because he was injured last year. But either way, I mean, I'm not afraid to own Barkley and draft him early. Like, he's definitely high up on my boards. But I do like I think Jonathan Taylor's an absolute monster.
Shane, now I'm going to come to you and ask you a question. Are you okay with that?
We have a question from the audience.
Shane. But,
This show has great chemistry today. Great chemistry.
We're really just on all cylinders.
Ebb and flowing. We're good to go.
All right. First off, to the chat, thank you for the question, Husker. We'll talk about that one right away here. As I said, we're going to go through. I picked out a bunch of running backs that have been getting a lot of in the conversation in the Twitter sphere that we're going to talk about. But if you have a running back, or frankly, if you have a wide receiver that you want us to play a little buy sell on, let us know. So I was going to ask, first of all, Shane, I was going to let you touch on the Taylor versus Barkley, and then you know what? Let's get into let's answer Husker's question here. Taylor versus Barkley, and I think I know what you're going to say, but would you buy on either of Rager or Ruggs, or if there was a gun to your head, which one would you actually want more?
Oh, me first?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, the other Shane.
Yeah, I'll buy Jalen Rager. I can get him for 2022 pick, second rounder. If I can see him trade up on DLF's Trade Finder for 405 and a 2022 second round. Yeah, I'll do that. Ruggs too. I'll buy him for a late second rounder. If I can get anyone to take second rounders in this class from me, I will give them all to him. Like, you could have like the 205 through the 212. You can have every one of those picks, and I will take Rager and Ruggs. And gun to my head, I mean, I guess I'm a homer, so I'm going to go with Rager.
For one, I'm shocked.
Yeah. Because, I mean, nothing's changed for Ruggs. Nothing's changed. Nelson Aguilar's left, right? But David Carr is still his quarterback. So
Derek
not
Carr's
enough
accurate.
skills. He
Shane just put his head in his hand for those listening to the podcast.
You're sullen.
on very few attempts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can see that 100%. I mean, I saw a conversation.
I'd rather he be 40%, 40% completion percentage on like 80 deep attempts a year.
So Jameis?
90. Yeah, whatever. But it's a deep ball. I don't expect it to have a high completion percentage anyway. So I'd like to see more of it. And you're not going to see that with Carr. I think we know that by now. He's shown us what he is. Hurts, he's at least not afraid to throw deep. He actually threw more deep balls than Carson Wentz did last year.
Yeah, he'll throw deep balls.
He'll also throw interceptions and fumble it.
I mean, there's that. But, if he's behind a strong offensive line, another thing that the Sixers, the Eagles probably have a better line than the Raiders.
Like Jalen Hurts is willing to chuck it from deep a lot more than Ben Simmons.
Yes. Ben Simmons will not ever. So.
Andrew, would you be more inclined to buy Rager or Ruggs, or are both a never for you?
I agree with Shane. I would buy Rager and not Ruggs. I have a past history with Ruggs that I can't get over. So, and besides, I didn't like. He graded really poorly for us at PFF. His receiving grade was really, really low. And if you just look at the track record of the guys that he's with, it's really bad. Like there's not many hits. I think Mike Williams might be the highest graded player, or a player that was in his bucket that ended up kind of breaking out. I mean, has Mike Williams really broke out yet? Like, I don't know. Like maybe he had caught 10 touchdowns one season. So I guess he did break out, but yeah, it's just not good for Ruggs, what he did during his rookie year. And again, the situation hasn't changed. He had the opportunity last year and he didn't do anything with it. They brought in John Brown. So if John Brown just becomes Nelson Aguilar, then you're kind of left in the same situation. But I like Rager. I like Rager more coming out. I think he kind of raw deal last year. He was hurt. Wentz was super inconsistent. The quarterback play was never consistent. And
I would
now,
say Wentz was consistent. Actually,
well, yeah, Wentz is consistently bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm interested to see how he does in the slot too. I think that's good. I think he's really. I think that he was meant more to be a number 2. So bring in Devontae Smith, I think is a lot better for his outlook, where he's not had to be. Oh, you need to be the number 1. I think he's better as a number 2 in the slot. So I like Rager.
Chase, I already know that you said that Jalen Rager was a generational wide receiver prospect last year, and you thought that he was one of your favorites to come out this decade. So I know that you're all aboard Jalen Rager. Are you still in on Ruggs?
God, come on, man. I'm the biggest Rager truther there ever was. I mean, come on. No, you already know my answer to this one. I'm going Ruggs 100%. I just feel like his utilization is going to increase, and Jalen Rager's still learning how to catch. And I know that the ball is probably going to be close to the line of scrimmage this year because he might be playing out of the slot more often, maybe if he doesn't get beat out by Travis Fulgham. But I still think that the Ruggs holds the upper hand. And I want the upside at this point. Like when you're going this late on players, right? When you're trying to draft players this late, I want the upside. And I don't think that Jalen Rager has that upside.
All right, let's keep it with
I love your commitment to being wrong. I do. That's one of my.
Okay, but to be fair, the odds are on his side at this point. Like on both these guys, right? Like both these guys are probably up shit's creek at this point.
Yeah, you're asking me to take 2 shots in the dark.
Historically, neither player hit the threshold that you want a receiver to hit in his rookie year.
There, I changed my name.
I can make I can make more legitimate excuses or reasons for Rager that I can Ruggs and things that have changed.
Yeah, like he can't catch. Oh, he learned how to catch.
Hey, all right. Sorry. All right, as we get into the rest of this list here, I just wanted to ask because look, this is partially, I think, an interesting conversation. It's partially field research, frankly, for an upcoming article. The idea of the buy low running back. I've seen all over the place people talk about buying low on all these different running backs. And at least in my view, when you're buying low, the goal is eventually selling high. So to me, the idea of buying low on these sort of older running backs, it's almost like an oxymoron. You're really buying discounted production versus some of these younger guys where maybe you can see them progress. Let's just throw out the term. If you're looking to buy a running back that you feel has more value than the market has, what is sort of that archetype that you're looking for? Are you looking for the young guy that you think has untapped potential, or are you looking for the veteran who's going to give you fantasy points, right away? And let's just say in a startup, because obviously, if you're in a contending team or a rebuilding team, that answer differs. Andrew, let's start with you. What's your approach? Are you more inclined to go for the points now, where they might die on your roster, or are you trying to look for that buy low guy like maybe a Miles Sanders or a CEH or whoever you like, sort of in that depressed tier?
Yeah, I think I'm more of a buying low type of. So really looking for a younger player that has untapped potential. Again, these running backs pop out of nowhere just because opportunity just happens because injuries happen. And if you have a dynasty roster stockpiled of backup running backs, chances are eventually someone's going to hit and you're going to be able to use that player. I mean, look, last year it was Wayne Gallman. I mean, he was another young. I mean, he wasn't old. Like he was a backup running back, but he got to be an RB1 for like 6 weeks. And if you had him just on your roster, like you had legit production that you could turn to. So things like that, even like a Mike Davis, where if you had him on your roster and then you try to flip those guys, but everyone at the same time knows that you can't get anything for them because they all know they're older running backs or whatnot. So I think it's really just looking at how you disagree with the market. So if there's a veteran running back that you think can offer you more value than what the market's going for, which most of the time it's not. Usually you have to overpay for running backs basically in any situation. But anytime I can get a throw in that's a running back, I mean, I'm all for that. However I can add more running. I mean, I can get freaking wide. Like, when was the last time someone was like, I need a wide receiver really badly? It's like most of the time it's people need. Yeah, never. Like people need running backs. So the more you have, the more. The more valuable your team is, or at least that's why I think. I don't ever try to trade for wide receivers. Like I want running backs. So that's the way I look at it.
Shane, how about you? I'm asking you the same question that I asked Andrew.
I mean, I hate paying up for running backs. So I'm either going to go one of two ways. I'm going to overpay for the young guys like Swift, JT, Travis Etienne, or I'm going to go the complete opposite way and just try to find a value guy, Philip Lindsay, Mike Davis. Look, I'm just saying, because I'd rather not. If I can't get the elite guys, then I'll just get a bunch of them. That if the situation turns right, that they have the opportunity to do something. And if my team's not contending, I can always flip them too.
Chase, where do you stand on this one? And then we'll start running down some names here.
So this one's interesting. I like trying to, if I'm talking about value running backs, and we're talking about significant values where you think you're significantly going to win a trade, maybe not be able to flip them. When it comes to veterans, I like looking for the offensive line pieces. These offensive lines who are dominant, or the coaches that call a ton of run plays, like we talk about with Kareem Hunt. And it was interesting because, I brought up a topic the other day of Joe Mixon versus Kareem Hunt. And it wasn't the fact that I think that Kareem Hunt's better than Joe Mixon or going to have a better season than him, but we did a startup and he got drafted in the 9th or 10th round versus the 3rd round for Joe Mixon. And yet they have very, very similar success rates. Yes, Joe Mixon hits at a running back 1 slightly more often than Kareem Hunt hits at a running back 1, but Kareem Hunt also hits at a running back 2 a good amount more than Joe Mixon hits at a running back 2. So overall, their fantasy points have been very similar. Overall, their yards has been similar over the past 2 seasons, by the way. Overall, their workload has been somewhat similar. So to sit there and to, try and make a case for Joe Mixon, but yet, put Kareem Hunt on the back burner, I think is asinine. So trying to find these values like a Kareem Hunt who falls to you in drafts is important, but also exploring the market. I mean, Kareem Hunt finished out as RB 9 or 10 last year. And he was the backup running back on the team. He's not going to have a huge workload going forward. And we know that, but if his efficiency was through the roof. And yes, he was dependent a few games on Nick Chubb missing some time, but I mean, it's still a value at certain points where you can figure out where you want to play him. Like, hey, you're going to play him against the Bengals? Okay, so you're going to play him against the Bengals. Are you going to play him in certain matchups and figure out the matchups? I like to explore that. So I want to look at a schedule, and I know schedules can be overrated from time to time, but after the first 3 weeks of the season hit, and I can see the upcoming schedules for players, and we can kind of get a strength of schedule feel to it. I kind of like to try and target those running backs like a Chris Carson who had a significantly weak schedule. I think it was 2 years ago for the whole back half of the season. We saw David Montgomery, who I hate, and so I refuse to trade for him, but that would normally be a guy that I would target halfway through the season because his schedule is just insanely easy. So trying to explore these kinds of things I think are very, very important, but also just understanding that, hey, you now have a backfield duo, which I want to talk about in a little bit when we come to the Raiders, where you might actually have a little bit longer lifespan or projected life value because they're going to still get a good amount of carries, but it's not going to be over the top. So although you have a drop-off in production from running backs when they hit 25 or 26, you might not have that from a Kareem Hunt, right? You might not have that from a Kenyon Drake moving forward. We have to see what happens.
Wait, we've already seen, but Kenyon. All right, I'm sorry. You said Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt.
Okay.
All right, well, Shane, how about this? Well, I was going to go kind of in order of ADP, but Chase just brought up Joe Mixon. So why don't we just go straight to Joe Mixon because he's on my list too. Buy or sell Joe Mixon at RB16, and also feel free to address who's the more upstanding citizen, Joe Mixon or Kareem Hunt?
At their value, by the way. At their value. Come on, be fair.
At their value as a citizen?
Oh, who's the most upstanding? Oh, I missed that. At their value. Let's go at their value still.
At their value to society. Joe Mixon, buy or sell, RB16 off the board. You're going to start it today. Are you pressing the button on good old Joe?
I mean, I should because that's really not.
I don't care what you should do. I want to know what you will do.
No, I'm not touching Joe Mixon. Like the dude is what he is. At some point, you got to give up the dream of but he's going to be the RB1. He can be the RB1. This year, he's going to be the RB1. It's been 4 years of the same thing. He had one really good year. He gets injured all the time. I know injury prone isn't a thing. Whatever. Besides the fact that, they have 3 wide receivers there that should see about 120 targets each, which I would think might affect his receiving work. But I'm not paying for Joe Mixon.
Plus, he'll be losing targets to Drew Sample and CJ Uzomah.
Or Zach Ertz when he gets traded.
Ooh. There. Andrew, where do you stand on Joe Mixon? Buying or selling at RB16 in Dynasty?
I'll buy him, and then I think he'll have a top 10 year this year, and then I will put him right on the block and trade him because I think that he's due to have this one huge massive year. We saw, Giovanni Bernard's gone. Like he's going to see over 20 touches per game. I love Joe Burrow in this offense, super high on this offense heading into the year, and running back production is tied to the offense. So I think that this will be the year that Joe Mixon does return RB1 value, but it won't last. Like, so then you're gonna want to trade him. I'm already writing the article. I have the draft. Sell Joe Mixon high. Like it's already queued up. So I'll stick with Joe Mixon one more year.
Man, Mixon's scary because I'm like 60% with you. The problem with Mixon is he's such a walking contradiction because he was a really good prospect. He hits all the size thresholds. He hits all the athleticism thresholds. He was very efficient in college. The problem with him in the NFL is not just that he's been hurt all the time, but that he actually is like not efficient at all. Like he's actually kind of dog crap. So like when you look at like rush yards over expected, he's always hanging out, in the bottom. He's like chilling with Frank Gore and Peyton Barber. And that's concerning. It's not that concerning to me because there's nobody else in Cincy like at all. Like
hey, volume.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like you look at Cincy and it's like, okay, well, they're going to spread it out, and all they have is Samaje Perine, who's a Jagamuffin, and Chris Evans and a bunch of dudes. They're just guys, right? So it's like if Joe Mixon, at least he has burst, and if you have wide running lanes, and if their O lines are all improved, then you should see big plays. But it's a little bit scary. I'm going to say I'm a buy, but it's like a tentative buy. I see Damian Harris in the chat. We will get to him a little bit later. I just want to talk about some of the guys who are more in the RB1 range first, but I will definitely bring up Damian Harris. We talked about him earlier with Swift. I'll make this a either-or question. DeAndre Swift or Cam Akers, they're being drafted back-to-back right now in Dynasty ADP. And interestingly enough, Swift going ahead of Akers right now in Dynasty ADP, Akers going a full round ahead of Swift in redraft ADP, which is interesting, especially with Akers even being a little bit younger. So, Chase, I'll start with you. You can pick one in Dynasty, not at cost, because their cost is basically the same. So, straight up, DeAndre Swift or Cam Akers, which one would you buy in Dynasty? If you really want to say neither or both, you can say neither or both, but let me know which one.
I'm taking both. I'm taking Swift in both.
Swift and both?
I'm taking Swift in both. I think that they spread out the offense a little bit this year, slightly. They improved the offensive line. You're going to have the 10 best run blocking offensive line who just added the best left tackle, possibly, in the past 10 years to their roster. Like, why I don't understand volume. He's going to be in the slot. Like, yes, Swift.
Shane, are you a Swift or are you with Akers? I mean, I know the answer to what you're going to say, but why don't you regale us?
Yeah, I think Akers is wildly overpriced. Yeah, I'll take Swift, redraft, Dynasty, Keeper League, IDP, Super Select,
IDP.
Tight End Premium. I don't care.
I know best ball because I know you play best ball now. You announced your promo code on your podcast, so you're in the best ball streets.
Best ball, I definitely drafted him a lot in best ball instead of Akers. Yeah. Akers is overpriced. Like Akers was fine last year. I think I've talked about this before. I just think we're going to see a little more Henderson than people are wanting to believe we will. And again, Swift, if he sees less than 90 targets, I will be absolutely amazed because it's TJ Hawkinson, him, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, like way below those guys as your receiving options. So I guess in a non-PPR league, I might think about taking Akers. There you go. There's the format I would take Akers in.
Okay, but if you play in a standard league, like what are you doing with your life?
What about Joe Mixon or Cam Akers?
Cam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think Cam's bad. I think he's overpriced.
Yeah.
Let's so we got a Swift and both for Chase. We've got Swift and then sell Akers, at least at his price for Shane. Andrew, where do you go? And first of all, what's up, Taylor? Cold T, how you doing? I just want to say that I'm extremely aggravated that you listened to this podcast at the exact time that Shane was talking about Darrell freaking Henderson. That aggravates me so immensely. Andrew, are you a member of the Hendo train with Taylor and Shane? Are you going DeAndre Swift or Cam Akers?
I'm going Cam Akers. Look, I mean, I think in redraft, I think that he's overpriced as like a back end first round pick. I think he should be. Right now? Yeah, like he goes like
not my drafts. I take him mid first round
at 10. usually, like between 8 and 10. Like if you could get him in the second round, like top of second round, I think that'd be much more appropriate. But I still will take him over Swift in redraft, and then in Dynasty, yeah, it's close. But I think that you look at the offenses. This Lions offense could be bottom 5, like in the league overall. Like this Rams offense could blow the top off the league. That's what I'm looking at. Like Cam Akers could score twice as many touchdowns as Swift, and you're already having issues with Jamal Williams potentially working in at the goal line. That like those opportunities are going to be cut in half because the Lions are like never going to be near the end zone. Like that's just going to happen. In the Rams, I mean, if Stafford hits, like this Rams offense is going to be like top 5. So I want Cam Akers attached to a top 5 offense.
Wow, top 5.
Yeah, I could make the tie here. I'm like known as an Akers guy, but I'm so torn on Akers, man. Like Akers is my dude. He's been my dude for a long time. I thought he was one of the best values in rookie drafts last offseason. I thought he was a great value in redraft. That didn't really work out. And then, in like October, I was just saying like everyone needs to go buy Cam Akers. Like immediately you need to just like run, don't walk, and you need to trade a second round pick for Cam Akers like right now because he's going to get this job eventually. Of course he did. And then the offseason, he's going round 3, round 4. I'm like, you just need to smash Cam Akers, right? And I'm seeing this, right? Average 61% of snaps, 22 carries, 94 yards, 3 touchdowns over the final 4 games of the season. I posted this massive thread about why he had taken over from Henderson, why it wasn't about injury, and all of a sudden I'm in the Akers dude. Now all of a sudden, his ADP went from like, the mid-teens up to where he's getting drafted as an RB7 overall. I'm totally fine with that price. I'm still buying at that price, but I actually prefer DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is my most rostered running back in seasonal leagues and in dynasty leagues. Cam Akers, I think, is fine as a first-round pick. I think that he came into the league with a pass-catching background out of college. He just couldn't pass block. They've already said that he's working on that. They've said that they want to get him more pass looks. Malcolm Brown is out of town, who is their primary pass down back. That's the thing. Darrell Henderson didn't play pass downs either, right? It's not like that was what he was losing to Henderson. He was losing that to Malcolm Brown. So if Henderson works in and takes some carries between the 20s, honestly, go for it, dude. Akers, I think, is going to be the one who's going to get the pass game work. He's going to be the one that's going to get the goal line work. I think that makes him a first-round pick in redraft, and I'm buying both ultimately in dynasty formats. Let's move on here to J.K. Dobbins, who's been an interesting one on Twitter. He's being drafted right now at RB9 in Dynasty. People concerned about the workload, people concerned about the pass game usage. Seems like nobody's concerned about the talent. Let's just go in reverse order here. Andrew, we'll start with you. Are you buying or selling J.K. Dobbins as the Dynasty RB9?
I will sell him. Do I need to put some spice on it?
You don't need to, but I enjoy spice.
He's not ever going to catch any passes. Like, I want running backs to catch passes. That's why Swift has value, because he's going to, like they're saying, like 90 targets. Like, J.K. Dobbins might have 90 targets the next 3 seasons combined. Like, I don't see the upside of taking a guy in the top 10 when, during that last stretch of games last year, he wasn't even a top 10 running back because he didn't catch any passes. So I don't know if there's top 10 upside unless he gets a different quarterback.
Shane, where do you land on Dobbins?
Love Dobbins, but the math just doesn't add up. You need the targets. You need the target share. It's just not going to have it. It'd be nice if they switch that offense up and throw more. Until I see it, I can't believe it. And even if they do, I don't know that they're going to be throwing to J.K. Dobbins so much as Rashad Bateman and Sammy Watkins. So, yeah, I have to sell him at that price, and I love him, and it hurts. And if he would have landed in a better spot, how important landing spot is.
You're the landing spot correspondent.
And if he could have landed literally on just about any other offense in the league, I'd be buying, but can't do it.
All right, this is what's so fascinating to me. Do you remember, because I remember this, but maybe I just ran in a different circle. I don't know. But I remember that there was a world last summer where everyone was saying, where the first 2 off the board were Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, most drafts, right?
God,
and the next two is DeAndre Swift versus J.K. Dobbins. And the whole argument was if you want someone who's going to produce this year, you take DeAndre Swift. But J.K. Dobbins, eventually he's going to take over from Mark Ingram. He's going to be in the Mark Ingram role. Then he's going to be a top 5 running back. There's a lead upside. Now everyone thinks the landing spot sucks. How does this happen in a year? Chase, are you buying or selling Dobbins?
You have your
chance, Shane. I'm pitching a Chase.
I'm just saying, but he got run last year without Ingram. So it was kind of like we got the best case scenario, and it still wasn't what we'd hoped. Like, you can talk yourself into some stuff, but then when when it actually happens in front of you and you're like, wait, this is not how I planned it at all.
It's because Mark Ingram
ignore it.
Wait. So what you're saying is that he was drafted into a spot that everyone thought was good, but they didn't think he was going to perform year one. But then he was so good that he played Mark Ingram off the field, who we were originally concerned about, but now we don't like him because he wasn't an RB1 immediately when we never thought he would even play in year one?
I never thought he wouldn't play in year one. I always thought he would take Mark Ingram's job. Look, if you told me at the end of the year that Mark Ingram would have been inactive for the last 8 games or whatever he was, I would have said, oh, man, Dobbins probably went nuts, right? Like, he probably had 30 receptions, and nah, he didn't. I don't see that changing.
That's a very good point. Like the Chin brings up, and like I was, kind of going that route at first until I read an article recently for Player Profiler, speaking of, but sitting there and looking at it, like J.K. Dobbins, he scored on 8 of 9 carries inside the 5-yard line. I went back and watched the film. This was not like wide open holes he was running through. And he wasn't also, the offensive line was decent, but it wasn't great. He was still breaking tackles. He was still making it happen. And then they kept giving him the ball. I believe it was like the last 6 weeks of the season. I think he was handed the ball off at least one time in each game. Might have been 7. Inside the 5-yard line, he scored on every single one of those, I believe. Or at least, like I said, he scored an 8 out of 9 total throughout the season. And that wasn't even including the playoffs. I think he scored in the playoffs as well. But sitting there and looking at it, he had let me find where it was, an 8.2 breakaway run rate, which was the 5th best, a juke rate of 30.9 as well. Oh, I'm sorry, the 5th best juke rate at 30.9. And he had the best breakaway run rate at 8.2. Their blocking declined. I'm huge on the offensive line, right? Their blocking rate declined significantly. Both Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards saw a decline from 2019 to 2020 in the blocking efficiency, and that had a big reason to do with Yanda retiring, right? So they go out, they grab Zeitler. Zeitler's not the best. He's not, the next coming of, an all-pro at, what is he, 31, 32 years old. But he still is very, very good, especially with the scheme that they run over there in Baltimore. He should increase the efficiency of this offense. We could see even a bigger breakaway run rate than we saw before. The biggest thing is the fact that Lamar Jackson, they tried to turn him into a passing quarterback over the first 4 to 6 games of the season. He did not do nearly as many designed runs in that period of time. As the season went on, he got more and more designed runs, and we saw more and more breakaway runs and big plays from J.K. Dobbins along with touchdowns. So sitting there and looking at it, I think it's a clear-cut possibility that J.K. Dobbins, without the passing game work, could be putting up numbers similar to Derrick Henry. The Titans are the only team over the past 2 years that hasn't targeted the running back as much as the Ravens has. As little as the Ravens have. They've targeted him less than the Ravens have, excuse me. So sitting there and looking at it, I just feel like he could still be putting up those numbers just because of efficiency metrics. And it's not because of him, it's because of the way they run the offense. So I'm still on board J.K. Dobbins as the top 12 running back going forward. I would still take Cam Akers over him. I would take Dobbins over him, and I would take Jonathan Taylor over him.
You would take Dobbins over Dobbins?
Wait, what did I say? J.K. Dobbins, Swift, and Taylor. Sorry, excuse me. God, that was tough to get out.
I'll make it quick because Chase, blathered on with a bunch of stats that Shane really enjoys. Shane is our Duke rate correspondent.
How sticky is Duke rate? How sticky is Duke rate?
Pretty sticky.
Okay, how sticky?
I don't know. I don't know the R value. I don't have it offhand.
Okay. But how sticky is breakaway rate?
Breakaway rate's not sticky.
I think that's far less sticky.
Just curious.
No, it's not. It's actually not. Breakaway run rate.
I knew they're fun. They're
Mixon's,
fun stats.
Mixon's breakaway rate was really good in 2019. It was really bad last year.
Because if you look at breakaway run rate, it's usually the actual number of breakaway runs. It's 7, and then it goes down to 4. And then if you get 2 holding calls, it goes down to 2. So that's not the stickiest one. That being said, though, I think if you just watch J.K. Dobbins, you're like, that guy probably will have a lot of breakaway runs because he's
So breakaway
hashtag
runs. There was a study I did last year. I didn't look at it this past year, but I did in 2019 over the previous 3 years. Breakaway run rate has a direct correlation with stack box rate. So when you sit there and you see more defenders in the box, typically you have a better run rate, and that doesn't mean that your yards per carry goes up. Your yards per carry is pretty much right around the same rate because you also get stuffed on almost just as many runs. But it also creates bigger plays, which most time result in touchdowns.
I'll make it quick. I'm buying Dobbins. I have him just above RB9. Here's the thing. People say you can't have an RB1 in this offense. Well, Mark Ingram was an RB1 literally 2 years ago. He was the RB11 in that offense. He did not play even as many snaps as J.K. Dobbins was seeing towards the end of the year. So will J.K. Dobbins be an RB1? I don't know, but I think we certainly can't say it's literally impossible he'll be an RB1. I also think there's some people say, it doesn't matter if Gus Edwards stays or leaves. They just want to run a committee system. I don't believe in committees. I believe in running backs. Gus Edwards is good, guys. Like Gus Edwards has always actually been good. If you just look at his efficiency metrics, if you look at how he grades out, I know that he wasn't drafted, so he doesn't, matter in the eyes of the fantasy community, but he's actually quite good. So to me, like when I see a team wants to give Gus Edwards 40% of the work, I don't really blame them for that because he's going to do very well with that. If he does leave eventually, I don't think there's any guarantee that the person just walks into the same role because they might not be as good as Gus Edwards. So I think J.K. Dobbins is a high floor, low ceiling dynasty asset in the sense that in this offense, it's hard to envision a top 5 season unless a lot changes. But he's great at football. I don't think there's any debate that he's great at football. So I think you're buying at worst a high-end RB2, and you're going to get that for a number of years with RB1 upside if the situation changes because it can't really get much worse. Let's move now. We're getting closer to an hour to at least the biggest disagreement between Andrew and I. And let's get Shane and Chase's take on this. Andrew, I will start with you, then we'll come back around to me. Ezekiel Elliott going as the RB10 in Dynasty. I have an article coming out, and I just finished this, about why I called Ezekiel Elliott and the fallacy of the buy low running back and why he's one of the worst targets in Dynasty, but also redraft, in my opinion. You recently said it is a crime against humanity to not rank Zeke top 5 in redraft. Give me the case for Zeke in redraft and touch on this in Dynasty too if you're buying this at RB10.
Yeah, so I'll just hit on the redraft because I think in Dynasty he's probably not someone that I'd be looking to, just because he's a depreciating asset. Like I can see that. Like I don't expect his efficiency numbers to necessarily jump off the page. He could have a spike year, but he's an older running back. Like you buy older running backs, you usually can never get them back for full price. It's never going to happen. So redraft, I'll just keep it simple. Look, he was bad last year because he didn't have his quarterback and he didn't have his offensive line. Two things that he has back. Like, I don't understand when I first looked at Zeke, I was very on I kind of like Tony Pollard a little bit more. Tony Pollard's been more efficient. Tony Pollard's the sexy guy. Like, he could do all these things. But then every time I kept writing,
what things can he do that are sexy? I'm just curious. Like, if I want to, does he have an OnlyFans?
Yes.
Man.
But what I would say is, every time I wrote about Zeke, it was always everything screams a bounce back. Like everything about his profile to me. I mean, the guy he led the league in goal line carries. He scored 5 times on 26 goal line carries. That's going to regress positively. Like he plays on and on. I know I said top 5 offense for the Rams. Maybe that was a stretch. Top 5 for Dallas. Seems like pretty consensus that they're going to be really explosive offense as long as Dak Prescott's the quarterback. So I don't see how he can't return if he's the goal line carrier. I mean, the guy had a career low in touchdowns last year. He literally scores double-digit touchdowns like every single season except for last year. And before last year as well, before Dak went down, 135 routes run, first among all running backs, was 25 more than the next closest running back, which was David Johnson. So not only was he getting goal line carries, he was getting all the pass game work as well. Again, so the efficiency thing is one thing it's volume with Zeke, and he's getting the high value touches. And something I found was really interesting. If you look at Zeke versus Tony Pollard, efficiency, when you take out the red zone, so taking out these high value touches, because a lot of the times teams are prepared to stop the run because they know they're going to run the ball in the red zone. The last 2 seasons, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott have the same yards per carry from not including the red zone, 4.8 and 4.7. So when people kept telling me that Tony Pollard's so much more efficient, yeah, because Ezekiel Elliott's numbers get hurt because he's getting so many freaking red zone touches because you can't get yards in that area of the field. You just score touchdowns, which ultimately is what you want for fantasy. So that's my spiel on Ezekiel Elliott.
All right, I'm going to save my rebuttal for the end here. Shane, can you please stop advertising your OnlyFans on air? It's unprofessional. Also, what's your take on Ezekiel Elliott, you sick bastard?
I mean, RB10's a little high. It's a little high for my taste, but
Who isn't?
I can understand why you would, because I think he has at least one more season where he could be a top 3 running back, probably next season. After that, I don't know. But how much do you pay for that? How much do you pay for that one season? Like, is it worth the cost to pay for one season of that? Maybe. I mean, I know I'll trade. I've been trying to buy low, offering like one rookie pick for him, a rookie first, see if I can get him for that. Like, I can definitely take that hit. But since I have to choose a side, I'm not going to draft him in the top 10 in Dynasty now.
Chase, what's up with you? And make sure to keep your football team fan bias out of this.
Oh,
You know.
dude, I don't care about that. I don't pay any attention to that. With Zeke, I actually like Zeke. I for some extent, I was trying to buy him low, quote unquote, but to buy him low is almost impossible at this point. I mean, he has maybe 2 or 3 good years left in him, where he could be an RB1. We don't even know if that's guaranteed, but last year really concerned me because he had 6 fumbles and he had 9 drop passes. And sitting there and looking at it, when you let the team down in crucial situations like that, then your opportunity is going to diminish. And that's something where Tony Pollard fans are really hitting hard on. Now, do I think that Tony Pollard's going to take his job? No. But could it become more of like a 50-50 work split? It absolutely could. My bigger concern, though, is his usage inside the 5, which Andrew brought up. The year before in 2019, he scored on 55% of his carries inside the 5. This past year was only 20%. Now, I understand that part of his offensive line was beat up. They were going and cycling through offensive linemen the entire year. They didn't have the chemistry, whatever kind of corollary you want to play in. And I do believe in that 100%. But is it going to ever get back up to the 55, 60% that he's had in his great years, where he goes and he puts up, 12 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns? I don't know if that's going to be the case moving forward. And so if he sits there and he keeps on having deficiencies in the passing game where he's dropping passes, if he keeps having deficiencies in the run game, where he's not, where he's fumbling the ball. And then he also is not scoring touchdowns when he's given the ball inside the 5. We're talking about a big time issue moving forward and somebody that is going to see the same sort of thing, although not hurt, but the same sort of appreciation that we saw with Todd Gurley. I think next year might even be a better buy than this year. But once again, I'll offer early 2nd round pick for him. Maybe a late first, but I'm not going past that point in Dynasty.
All right,
redraft, sure, I'll take him as like a borderline, a fringe RB1, RB2, somewhere in that range. Take him above Joe Mixon.
Here's where I'm at on Zeke from a Dynasty point of view. Look, people call me an ageist all the time, and it's true. I'm an ageist. I hate old people. I hate Shane. And in a Dynasty, it's true. Like, I'm a person that I want to pay up for the young running backs, like Andrew has said tonight, like Shane has said tonight. I know Chase to believe that as well. So I'm not a person that's usually actively targeting 25, 26-year-old rushers, and I feel like people sort of conflate my Zeke hatred with my general ageism. That's not the case. There's running backs that are ranked below Ezekiel Elliott, and I'll just toss a couple out there, like an Aaron Jones or a Derrick Henry, who are extremely, extremely efficient and effective real-life running backs, and are also extremely efficient and effective fantasy running backs. So I just don't understand. If I want to sort of buy discounted production, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to buy this running back, I'm going to take on the risk that maybe I just use this guy up and he dies on my roster, I want to do it on an asset I feel more secure about, and I do want to do it on an asset that deserves to keep his job. Like, I'm going to push back on the Pollard thing a little bit, because here's the biggest issue with Zeke right now, is that I don't think that it was just because they lost Dak, just because they lost the O-line. I'm the opposite of you, Andrew. I went in last year. I had Zeke in a couple leagues. I've had Zeke in a couple leagues for a long time prior to this offseason. I was like, these Pollard fans, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't put their hand in the dirt. They don't understand what it's like to be a running back facing stacked boxes over and over again. I was like, I'm going to look back. I'm going to see the 2019 stats. I see that Zeke was elite. He's still elite. And then a funny thing happened. He actually sucked in 2019 too. That's the issue for me. I'll shout out David Zach, who runs rush yards over expectation. He was really bad in that metric in 19 and 20. The only 4 running backs who were below minus 2.0 rush yards per over expectation per attempt per his metric over the last 2 years, in both the last 2 years, were Zeke, Peyton Barber, Frank Gore, and Todd Gurley. So he's just not effective. And certainly some of that's at the goal line. But if you look at Pollard versus Zeke, Pollard actually faced a higher number of defenders in the box per attempt than Ezekiel Elliott. And, their juke rate was similar, but Pollard's creating a lot more yards per touch, both in 2019 and in 2020, has the higher breakaway run rate, which sure isn't sticky. But if you watch Zeke last year, he doesn't look like an explosive player anymore. He looks more like a competent plotter. And my issue with it is people are saying he's just going to get the touches and he'll be an RB1. I agree. If you give him 80% of the workload, he will be an RB1 for sure, because volume matters more than efficiency at running back. I just don't understand why a team that's probably going to be in playoff contention will want to hand a not very good running back 80% of the touches. Is Jerry Jones insane? Yeah, probably. He seems a little bit insane, but we've seen David Johnson get benched on a big contract. We saw Gurley get cut. We saw Bell get cut. I don't think Zeke's going to get cut. I'm just saying, what if he gets 60% of the snaps? Yeah, I'm seeing money, but have we not been around for the last 2 years? Running backs with the Rams paid Todd Gurley $21 million to fuck off. That happened. So I'm not saying that Zeke is going to get cut. I don't think he's going to get cut. I don't even think Pollard's going to steal his job. I'm just saying, last 5 weeks of the last season, Zeke played 59% of the snaps on average. Pollard was up over 40%. What if that just continues? Then he's not going to be better than Henry this year. He's not going to be better than Aaron Jones this year. So I'll just take shots on those guys. That's my take on Zeke. Andrew, I'll give you a quick bit to rebut because I know you've been I just went hard, and then I'll get on to the next guy here.
Well, I will say if there's one head coach that will choose to play the less efficient running back, it would be Mike McCarthy.
What about Eddie Lacy? He put in James Starks.
He never played Aaron Jones. He was one to play Jamal Williams. Remember the free Aaron Jones movement was started because of Mike McCarthy, so it could be a free Tony Pollard movement. But I hear you. It makes sense. Tony Pollard's obviously been the more efficient running back, but at the end of the day, if Zeke scores 15 touchdowns, he can rush for 3 yards per carry. This is something that a lot of people talked about with Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon, he never rushed for 4 yards a carry. I remember people complaining about that all the time. Guys, he scores all the touchdowns on this team. And he gets involved in the passing game. So Zeke has this 3-down skill set. Tony Pollard can work in, and who knows? If Tony Pollard's working in more, will Zeke be a more efficient running back? Because now he's getting less touches. That happens sometimes too. So again, I'm just tying to the touchdowns. If he gets the touchdowns, then he'll return production. And if he doesn't, well, then he won't. It's really tied to the scoring. So that's what I'm going to buy because I'm just really high on the Dallas offense.
No, that's a fair point. They're going to score a ton of touchdowns, and even as a Tony Pollard optimist, I'm not projecting Pollard to all of a sudden be their goal line back. So
we're possibly seeing a repeat of the 2018 Rams, essentially, with this high flying offense. Todd Gurley might not see the efficiency. But at the same time, 17 touchdowns that year. It's very possible.
That is definitely possible. Let's just move on quick here. We've done Akers, Dobbins, Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Mixon. Look, let's if Husker's still in the chat, I want to touch on his guy because we didn't. So let's touch on Damian Harris real quick. We'll make this a quick round. We'll make all the rest of these a quick round just because we've been already running over an hour here. So let's do a 30 seconds or less round. Damian Harris, I am going to try and pull up his ADP really quickly.
Why didn't you start with another player? Then you could have pulled that up.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to disrespect the chat. All right. Well, whatever. He's sorry that I wasted those 15 seconds of your value.
That was a long time. That was a very long time.
All right. So, okay, Chase. RB32, Damian Harris. Yay or nay? I'll even give you a few names that's going around him just so you can soak it all in. The 4 going ahead of him are Fournette, Mike Davis, Trey Sermon, Melvin Gordon. 4 going behind him, Rojo, Raheem Mostert, Zach Moss, and James Conner. So, Damian Harris. Buy or sell?
I'm gonna buy him and then sell him to somebody else at that point. I'd probably go receiver at this point because I already have my running backs.
I didn't ask if you want a receiver. Fine.
But I don't want any of those running backs. Like that's why I get my running backs early. I don't want
Yeah.
any of those guys.
Alright, so it's a sell / avoid.
I would
worth
buy
question.
him because he
Disrespect our
probably
chat.
has the most value. I mean, the only other value right there would be like Mostert, who could end, or Mike Davis maybe, which I don't think Mike Davis is going to be the only running back on that roster come
Have
week
you
one.
seen his thighs? If they've signed on a running back, he'll
Either
stomp
way.
them to death.
So with
If
that being
Mike
said,
Davis-
I would buy
If Mike
one of those
Davis
guys
went
to
into the
sell them
sky
later in
pool,
the season.
sky pool would break from the force of his thighs.
You have my answer.
All right, Shade, HBU.
I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about anymore.
It means how about you?
No, whatever. I mean, it's Damian Harris. It's hard to really give a shit about him. I mean, and I mean that in the most respectful
Someone in the
way.
chat asked Shane. And you're
I
telling
know,
me
and I
you
get
don't even
that.
give a shit. You don't give a
I
shit
love,
about our listeners.
I
We don't
love
have that
Damian
many.
Harris.
It was
I
it was
love Damian
Husker.
Harris in college. I loved him coming out of college. I hoped that Bill Belichick was going to use him as a 3-down back. Bill Belichick was like, "No, I saw your work in Alabama. It was excellent, but no, thank you. We don't want to do that." I have no reason to think that that's going to change, right? So I guess
I'm
I'll
with
just
you.
pass on Harris.
I want nothing to do with Harris. Any like slight bit of excitement that I had in Damian Harris was immediately extinguished when they were like, you know how we had a 4 running back rotation last year? Well, we lost Burkhead, so now we'll only be down to a 3 running back. Oh, wait, sorry. We're going to draft Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th round.
So that's, I guess that's the only thing that's kind of interesting is that Rex Burkhead's not there anymore, right? But they didn't really use.
Now they have Black Burkhead. Like Ramondre
Well, and
Stevenson is there. He's the same
They had
thing.
James White, but they didn't really use him much last year. So I don't. Does James White reclaim his receiving back role there and just kill Damian Harris's value? Probably, yes.
Andrew, are you buying Damian Harris and the really efficient 150 carries and 0 targets he's destined for?
Yeah, it sucks because he was really good last year when he got the chance to run, but it's kind of like the J.K. Dobbins thing to an
Yeah,
extent.
but
where you
except
don't-
like this much.
yeah, it's like really like discount J.K. Dobbins, but it's still like not a good value. So I mean, you said Zach Moss is going later. I would take Zach Moss and just hope that the Bills try to run the ball because again, the Bills have a good offense. Zach Moss could stumble into some touchdowns. So yeah, I'll take Zach Moss.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great segue because Zach Moss is on my show sheet. So I'll pivot into Zach Moss. Damian Harris is like J.K. Dobbins, but if you have about 100 less carries, and then instead of a great offense, you have a really crappy offense, and then instead of only passing to him a little bit, you just never pass to him. So in that way, he's like J.K. Dobbins. Also, he's not quite as good. So definitely go get Damian Harris on your rosters. Anyway,
Jacob, you could have just led with that, and we wouldn't have had to say anything at all.
anyhow, Zach Moss. This is so embarrassing for me to admit, but Zach Moss is one of my top 5 most rostered running backs in Dynasty now. All of a sudden, and in best ball.
He doesn't get to talk anymore. He just
Look,
doesn't get to talk.
If you want to talk about juke rate, Zach Moss was 7th in the NFL in juke rate. Shane, I know you really value juke rate.
Love juke rate.
He was also 7th in the NFL in yards created per touch. PFF, once upon a time, adored Zach Moss coming out of college. Not the kind of running back I like. I refer to Zach Moss as a competent plotter, meaning, he doesn't add anything much, and he's not going to make big plays, but he'll get what's blocked, and he'll do fine. And at least he has some pass-catching ability, and he's got the requisite size. So the way I see it, he could potentially be 2021's David Montgomery, where he's just that guy who's now in a good offense. What if they decide we've had enough of you, Devin Singletary, and we're just going to give Zach Moss 70% of the work? Chase, are you buying or selling Zach Moss at I think it was RB 36, but whatever it was, about the same as Damian Harris?
I can't buy or I can't sell him. I don't have any shares of him, so I can't sell him. It's very tough.
I would buy him.
What?
I'm buying Zach Moss everywhere.
I'm buying. Let's go.
Yes.
Come on. Let's keep it
I'll
moving,
buy.
guys.
All right, we're all
Buffalo
buying.
passes too much. Buffalo passes too much, and then when they run, it's Josh Allen. So no, I'm getting rid of it.
All right, let's do a couple more rapid fire before we head off for the night. Miles Sanders going at RB19. I'll combine this one. Miles Sanders RB19, Josh Jacobs RB20. Are you buying both? Which one or neither? Shane, you already said buy Sanders, so what's your take on these two?
Yeah, I'm buying both. love the discount on Josh Jacobs. Kenyon Drake does not scare me because I've seen Kenyon Drake play football his entire career.
We've seen John Gruden coach.
I have. That's a little more frightening. I'm not going to lie to you, but he overcame it last year. I think I'll overcome it this year. And Sanders again. I still love the talent.
Dave in the chat for Toronto, enjoying a nice bag of milk. He says, buy Slime Sanders, sell Jacobs. Andrew, what do you think? Sanders, Jacobs, which one would you prefer? Oh yeah, by the way, Shane, are you taking Sanders over Jacobs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Andrew, Sanders or Jacobs, and are you buying both or neither?
I'm not buying either of them. I don't think, right? I mean, I just don't see either of their seasons having good outlooks this year, and that means their stock's going to go down. So maybe I'll buy them if their stock continues to drop. But right now, I'm getting a middling running back that I don't necessarily want. You know, these guys are going in the RB dead zone in redraft this year for a reason. Like rounds 3 and 4, like these running backs have issues and problems, and I'm just not excited about their 2021 outlook. So I'm afraid that their value is going to go down.
Chase, you got issues and problems. Who are you taking?
Oh, I have plenty of them, and I continue to confuse myself with Miles Sanders because Miles Sanders was one of the most efficient running backs when he saw an opportunity last year. He just didn't get an opportunity. I'm taking Miles Sanders. I'm going to drop Josh Jacobs. Kenyon Drake scares me a little bit too much because I just don't know what's going to happen. There's too much unknown with John Gruden.
I'm like totally fine with Josh Jacobs. I never liked Josh Jacobs. He's never been my style of running back. But I've recently seen him fall as far as the 5.10, 5.11 in startups. I think that's a little bit crazy banana town. So I would take Josh Jacobs at that value. And Miles Sanders, I will never quit Miles Sanders. I'm probably dumb. I'm probably an absolute Looney Tune for it. At some point, I'm going to end up in an insane asylum, and someone will be like, what do you think was the moment, where it all went wrong for you? And I'll be like, I drafted Miles Sanders with the 101 in 2019, and I never gave up. And they'll be like, it's okay. He's in a better place now. He's in the CFL. And I'll be like, no, he's still on my Dynasty roster. I don't care. I love Miles Sanders. He's got size. He's got athleticism. He's efficient. I think Philly has their heads firmly planted up their arseholes that they keep bringing in all these receiving backs. And I'm just going to ignore all logic. And I'm just going to draft Miles Sanders anyways. And I'm going to advise you to do the same because I think you should join me in the insane asylum for my social networking purposes. How about this? These two guys go back-to-back in redraft, and they're pretty similar range in Dynasty. Myles Gaskin and Mike the Thighs Davis. We'll start with you, Andrew. Buying, selling both. Davis I've got at RB 28 in Dynasty and Gaskin 25. Both, of course, go in round 4 in redraft these days. Andrew, buying or selling on Davis and Gaskin, and who would you prefer?
I'm going to sell both of them because I don't feel like sitting through another offseason or draft waiting for these players, teams to draft their replacements, because that's literally what you're just going to be enjoying a nice sweat during the draft, praying that the team doesn't draft their replacement, because that's what these guys are. They're replaceable running backs. So again, you can sell high now, and if you had bought low before the draft, that was smart. And if you can make that flip, I think it just makes sense to profit, or not, just kind of like ride out to the sunset, get the value you can, but just don't expect to be able to trade them after the season because people are going to be onto it.
Shane, anything different there? You don't seem like the type to be, pounding the table to buy Myles Gaskin.
No, I was, it's funny is that Gaskins was a guy, and Davis, I was telling people to buy last offseason. Just because, one injury away or whatever. And Gaskins, I just liked better than anything else in that Miami backfield. But yeah, no, I can't get these guys fast enough. Anything you want to give me a second round rookie pick, they're all yours. Bye.
Chase, you like Gaskin, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had him. It's kind of funny. We're sitting there talking about it, and I told everybody I had him ranked before the draft. I was like, he's my RB20 easily. And I have him as RB20 just in case Miami drafts somebody, but they're an analytics-based group. Like they like rebuilding. They like having these weak running backs. They came from the Buffalo Bills, by the way, like their GM did. So they obviously have the same belief in it. I mean, Myles Gaskins was a value, and why replace a value who's still giving you efficient numbers with Salvin Ahmed, who's still efficient, by the way, to spend money on a position that doesn't matter as much for real football. That and the wide receiver 2 on your offense really don't matter for real football. So, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers says. Either way, I think that Myles Gaskins could stick on this roster, and if he stays healthy the entire year and actually has a really good season, I don't see them draft another guy. But he has to stay healthy, and he has to have a very good season this year.
Icky saying Sanders should see an efficiency boost with Hurts like Dobbins light. Yeah, talk dirty to me, buddy. I'm anything positive, Miles Sanders. Yeah, I'll eat it up. Like
right, but he'll lose out in the passing game. That's
I don't
the thing.
care.
Like,
No, Andrew,
that's
Andrew,
the thing,
Andrew, you don't
like-
understand. Andrew, if you say good things about Miles Sanders, I listen. If you say bad things, I
all right,
do
Dobbins is going to get the rushing boost.
But then,
Ryan is-
so Hertz only had his passing decrease by 0.7% compared to Wentz when it comes to targeting the running back.
But do you think that's going to carry over through a 17-game season, though? That's what I mean.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he ran a lot this past year, and they're going to design more plays for the running back so they can keep them safe. So if anything, I would see an increase over decrease.
To pass it to the running backs?
Yeah, one thing the Eagles have talked about is using the running backs more in the screen game, which
100%.
What else
as
they
an
do?
organization
Pass it
they
to
used to do,
Travis
and they've gotten
Fulgham.
away from.
They can't keep passing it downfield like they have with Hurts. He's throwing the ball over too much. They need to get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible. If they're going to do design runs, they're going to do design runs, which I'm fine with. They did it last year, but moving forward, I think that the Eagles have to use the running back more often than what they did last year in the passing game. I think it was like 17.8 with Carson Wentz and 17.1 with Hurts.
That'll be something to monitor for sure.
I could be wrong,
Philly.
but
As for Gaskin and Davis, look, I mean, Mike Davis, I've always thought that Mike Davis is good. Like, I actually thought he was good out of South Carolina. I thought he was, like, kind of given a raw deal by the Bears. I was, like, I'm a total donkey, but I thought I was actually excited about Mike Davis getting to be a starting running back for Chicago, and then they brought in David Montgomery, who I think is literally just Mike Davis. And then Mike Davis was awesome last year in Carolina. So I think he's going to be good. He's like one of the best versions, in my opinion, of the competent plotter archetype. I don't know. I've never super tracked these guys in Dynasty, especially Davis, who's 28. I think this is, if he even does get the full-on workhorse role this year, I don't even know if that's a certainty. They could sign someone that gets cut. Who knows? He's probably never going to get it again. Gaskin is a little bit more interesting to me just because if he does do well this year, then they get one more year of paying him pretty much nothing to go out and do it. And I could see them just saying, all right, Gaskin, you can have the backfield this year, you can have the backfield next year, and then we're going to lose your number in the 2022 offseason and pretend you never existed. And that's fine. And then you get 2 years of value. I'll say I'm hesitantly buying both, even though I hate myself for it. Let's just say quick one before we get out of here. Who's one running back that we haven't talked about that nobody's particularly talking about that you would love to stash at the bottom of your roster, Andrew, here? And I know I've asked this from Shane and Chase a bunch of times. So if you don't have someone fresh and new, that's fine. But let's at least get one from you, Andrew. And sure, I mean, if you have someone fresh and new.
Keyshawn Vaughn.
The OTA skipper?
oh man, dude,
Didn't he
not
get threatened with losing his job like 5 hours ago?
Yeah,
Or is
Oh,
that why you're buying him?
Is that news? I didn't hear. What is this news? I really didn't hear it.
Well, so Tom Brady, because he's a little bit of a, he's hosting his own OTAs. He's hosting workouts, probably at Mar-a-Lago. And then, Bruce Arians, of course, is hosting the official OTAs. And so Tyler Johnson and Keyshawn Vaughn went to go to Tom Brady's workout instead of OTAs. And weirdly, when they asked Arians about it, he said, look, well, Tyler Johnson, I wish he was here, but he's no dumbass. And then when they asked him about Vaughn, he said, look, I'm not going to name names, but some people aren't here fighting for jobs they don't know they should be fighting for.
it was really weird that he came out and said that.
No, it wasn't. Dude, they've done nothing but show you that they hate that guy.
They hate him so much.
As soon as they drafted him, they were like, "Oh shit, we really did that." All right, we need. Is Fournette who's free? Let's go.
Giovanni Bernard, let's go.
Shady, Fournette, Gio. Get them all. Just get them all on the roster.
He's just
Anyone
trying.
but Keyshawn.
He's just trying to fire him up.
Arians said that Vaughn was going to have a breakout year.
Yeah.
Look, Andrew, here, we'll give you a chance. Keyshawn Vaughn, why is this the year for Keyshawn Vaughn? Why are you stashing Keyshawn Vaughn?
Well, he's under contract next year. He's the only running back under contract.
That's the lead.
So
I just want to state it's not a good sign if you start with he's under contract.
Well, you guys kind of set me up for failure. You guys kind of set me up for failure with the this breaking news that I wasn't aware of. So I was definitely caught off guard slightly. But
sorry.
No, you're good. But I mean, I don't think Fournette, Ronald Jones, Giovanni Bernard, look, they signed LaShawn McCoy last year, the exact same contract that Giovanni Bernard signed. LaShawn McCoy, he played less than Keyshawn Vaughn did.
He was not.
So, I mean, look, he was still a 3rd round pick. He got drafted higher than both Trey Sermon and Michael Carter, who people are spending 1st round picks on. Weird. So, look, I'm not saying Keyshawn Vaughn is anything like that, but he's basically free now because you don't have to pay a lot to get him. He's a running back and he plays in a high-powered offense like the Bucs.
Yeah.
So if he gets into a game, he has 3-down skill set, and he can do something. And I mean, we saw Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette can't catch.
Neither can Keyshawn Vaughn.
He can pass. He can pass block.
He'll fumble, but he can catch first.
He was the PFF's 2nd highest graded pass blocker last year.
Leonard Fournette. Pass blocking, yeah.
There will be no Rojo slander on this goddamn podcast.
I think the
you would be a Rojo truther, you fucker.
I think that
that would be your brand.
I think the Buccaneers running backs led the league in drops last year for any of the running back.
To be fair, they also get targeted a ridiculous amount because Tom Brady just looks up, and if he sees the slightest hand in his face, I'm just going to fire a bullet at Fournette. Fournette's I'm not catching this. I'm going to get tackled for a 2-yard loss.
I guess who's your guy? Vaughn, yeah.
You know what? Look, I respect it. Keyshawn. Here's the thing: if Keyshawn Vaughn gets cut, worse things could happen than Keyshawn.
I would like for him to get cut. I will buy Keyshawn if he gets cut before he gets picked up on waivers because he's going to do it. It's going to be fucking Atlanta, right? He's going to ruin all the Mike Davis share, or it's going to be the guy that I'm going to bring up here in a second after Shane answers.
Salvon Ahmed. Yeah, he's taking Gaskin's job. He had a little precursor of it. He did something last year. Whatever you call that. He had a little trial run and he did well. Now he's going to just take Gaskin's job because I liked Gaskins last year. This year, nah, I'm good.
I like Salvon. I do.
It's a vibe check for you.
Yeah.
Vibes are immaculate on Gaskin.
I was huge on Salvon Ahmed last year. And when I thought he was going to end up with the 49ers, is kind of like how everybody felt about JaMychal Hasty. That didn't happen. He ended up in a better situation, and boom, he went off.
I'm fine with Ahmed for sure. Why not? Chase, who's your guy here?
Eno Benjamin.
Oh, I thought you were saying Ito Smith.
Yeah, I thought you were saying Ito Smith too.
I was doing that on purpose because everybody's yelling Ito, but yeah. No, Eno.
I would take Keyshawn Vaughn over Ito Smith 1 million times out of a million.
I have 2. Chase Edmonds, getting injured all the time. I think that opens up the door for Eno Benjamin. They have no other running back on the roster. Their other running back gets injured all the time too. I don't know what's happening. They're trying to take the Dolphins approach, but it's you're doing it with the injury-prone running backs even worse than what the Dolphins are doing. But the other one is Tevin Coleman. He's coming from the same exact system that he's with in the 49ers. And I hate Tevin Coleman just as much as I hate Ito Smith. I hate them both very, very much. I hate them.
Dude, he runs. Do you know he ran a 40 just because he wanted to? He ran an 8.7. 8.7. The dude is toast.
So I just feel like he already knows the system, and Robert Saleh can give him an opportunity because he knows what he's doing over there. And obviously, you talked about the 4th-round draft pick, Andrew, and Michael Carter. I don't think that he's anything special. Plus, I hate the system for him. I understand they like some running backs to dance, but essentially, they want running backs who can get upfield and they can break the line, they can get breakaway runs. So, you talk about the speed that Mostert has, right? You talk about the speed that Jeff Wilson has, or at least the power that Jeff Wilson has. Michael Carter doesn't have any of that. So I don't know what they're planning on doing with Michael Carter.
Can I change my answer to
Tevin Coleman has straight speed.
Drew, yes, you can. I love Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson is my new answer.
Ty Johnson could play the Jarrett McKinnon role that they always wanted him to play, but he never could play because he was never healthy.
Tevin Coleman is ridiculous. Tevin Coleman is he's so cooked, it's unbelievable. I watched him last year, he couldn't get to the line of scrimmage. He took 2 steps of the ball, he's sorry, I need a break. And they're
I'm more Tevin Coleman for best ball, I should say. I'm not going to start him. I might roster him in a deep dynasty league, really deep. But for more best ball type things where he could end up being the starting running back for a few weeks, I don't mind him.
Yeah, he's going to give you Frank Gore numbers since we've talked so much about Frank Gore. And I like how your pick was so bad that Andrew was like, "Oh shit, there's a better running back on the Jets. Fuck, Ty Johnson. I'll take him."
Have you guys seen Ty Johnson's photo on Underdog? It's like this like weird gray background that they like. I don't know. It's creepy. Look, Chase. Here's the thing. I'll give you this.
Benjamin's
there's
my
a
first pick, by the
legitimately
way.
good chance that I like the Eno call actually. The Devi community will get real fired up about that one. I also there's a legitimate chance that Tevin Coleman takes the first snap of the season for the New York Jets. That also might be like his last snap of the season for the New York Jets because his hamstring might just fall off the bone the second they hand him the ball. But I guess you could do worse. There was a game last year. I forget the exact stats. I could look it up. But I'm going to look it up right now because it was just that funny.
Jacob.
But in week 2 of the season, the game when Mostert got hurt, remember Mostert had like 2 carries for like 100 yards, and then he got hurt immediately because he's Raheem Mostert. And then Tevin Coleman got to be the lead back for the rest of that game. And of course he got hurt because he's Tevin Coleman. But before he got hurt, he had 14 carries for 12 yards against the Jets.
I'm not great at math. That's like 1.2 yards per carry.
It's actually 0.9.
That's 0. It's less than. Oh, he had 14 carries, 12 yards.
14 for 12.
Oh, sorry, I got it transposed. Oh, that's even worse. Yeah.
And then his next game back, he had 2 carries for -11.
Not great.
I don't think that's a Tevin Coleman deficiency.
But it is funny. My guy real quick is Darrington Evans. He's playing out in Tennessee. They have not brought anyone in. The only other running back that they might not even have rostered, I don't know, is Jeremy McNichol. But like, talk about a jag.
Did say Brian Hill?
Oh yeah, Brian Hill. Okay, well,
I love Jeremy McNichols.
Brian Hill. He's again like Brian Hill is so good that Atlanta currently has the worst running back depth chart in the league, and they're like, Brian Hill, you're not going to make it back in 2021.
Brian Hill.
Are we sure it's not the Jets after that discussion? Just asking.
Okay, fine, it's the Jets. Yes. Also, if you're a Pirine truther, first of all, why? And then second of all, there's so many people that are still talking about Michael Pirine this offseason. They're running first team, and they're rotating 3 backs through the first team at Jets practice, and it's Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, and Michael Carter. Well, Michael Pirine, not included. So he's super, super dead. No, seriously, though, Darrington Evans, one of my favorite running back prospects in the 2020 class in terms of that second tier. He also was a 3rd-round pick. People forget. Same as Keyshawn Vaughn. He's clear and away the number 2 running back on the depth chart. He has a pass-catching background, and at their OTAs, they're running him routes out of the slot. They don't have anyone in Tennessee pass-catching wise. I mean, A.J. Brown, obviously. They got, Anthony Fergalicious over there, who's a dad runner. And then they got Josh Reynolds, who got beat out by Van Jefferson, who probably should have even been drafted, and got replaced with a guy who's, 5'1" and 98 pounds. So point is, there's a lot of opportunity for Darrington, I think, to work into a pass-catching role this year, even alongside Henry. And God forbid, if Derrick Henry ever gets hurt, and he is going to be 27 this year, so it's possible, Darrington Evans all of a sudden is walking into probably at least the 1A back, even if he's not a workhorse, in what'll still be a pretty good offense. And, he has a pass-catching skill set. So I would love to add Darrington Evans as a taxi squad, guys. That's a wrap. So we did a bunch of buys and sells. We talked about, Shane's OnlyFans. We talked about a lot of other stuff. We gave you Vaughn, Benjamin, Salman Ahmed, Ty Johnson, Tevin Coleman, and Darrington Evans. Andrew, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm over on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. Instagram, same thing. Dabbling in TikTok because it's fun and it's a whole new game out there. So follow me there too. I'm on the PFF account. So yeah.
Rock on. Shane, other than OnlyFans, where can we find you?
Also on the Twitters, at Shane is the worst. Dynasty Trades HQ once a week. Manic and Chill once every couple weeks. Writing for DLF, and I think that's it. That's all I do.
That's not all you do. You bring joy to my life. That's what you
I bring joy to people's lives. Oh, and if you're trying to get a Scott Fishbowl invite, and you haven't gotten one, go take a look at my pinned tweet.
Thank you, Shane. Chase, where can people find you?
First off, before I tell people where they can find me, I got to show you guys something. This is insane. This is Giovanni Bernard's thighs right there. You guys see that? Like,
That
holy
actually looks
shit.
kind of creepy.
Yeah, that doesn't look healthy. Like those
You
are
know,
very
like
close names.
You guys watch House MD? There's like a scene when he drops down his pants in Cuddy's office, and he's like, "Is this in my mind?" And
that's got to be Keyshawn Vaughn.
I'm pretty sure that if
you
you
know,
were two
you
tight
know I'm on the
pants,
clock. I will pick after I'm off the show.
people probably could have, confused that extra muscle right there for something else if he was wearing tighter pants. Just saying.
Oh man, Gio.
Oh man, he's
Gio
20%.
needs to go see a doctor. He does not look well. Chase,
Oh,
where
wait,
can people
oops.
find you?
Wait, Shane, are you in a hurry? Because I think you're in a hurry to get off. No, you guys can go check us out over there at
On minute
fantasyintervention.com.
95.
I know, right? Holy hell. Fantasyintervention.com. Once again, that's fantasyintervention.com. You guys can also go find us on Facebook, facebook.com/fantasyintervention. Go check out our group, Fantasy Intervention. I'm sorry, it's Fantasy Football Discussion. You guys can also go find us on Twitter at join our circle _ You guys can find me on Twitter at @FF_intervention. And please go subscribe on our YouTube page, youtube.com/fantasyintervention.
Thank you, Chase. And you can find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. You can find some of my work up on Fantasy Intervention on our website, fantasyintervention.com, on the YouTube channel. And you can also find me over at playerprofiler.com. Should be within the next few days or so. My article on Ezekiel Elliott will be coming out. And then I'm working on a series that I call the Inverted Upside Startup Strategy. It'll be a 3-part series. I'm super excited for that. I haven't been doing strategy pieces in a while, so I'm pumped up. I got the green light on that one from the Podfather today, so we'll be rolling that out on Player Profiler starting shortly. Otherwise, just find me on Twitter. And you can find me here every Tuesday. You can find me on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast every Friday. And similar to Shane, thank you for reminding me, if you wanted the Scott Fish Bowl, we are also giving away a Scott Fish Bowl invite free on the Friday show. We'll be sending out a tweet tonight or tomorrow morning about how, but basically you're going to need to subscribe to Full Tilt Dynasty on YouTube. You need to follow our Twitter page, and you get to tag 2 friends with your most tilting Dynasty or fantasy football story. So I'll send out more information on that later, but check us out at the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. That's all I got. Thank you for sticking with us. Those of you that are still here going a minute 97. Thank you, Shane, Chase, Andrew, for not just leaving the podcast, and sticking with us here for over an hour and a half. Bye, Chase.
So dumb.
Thank you. First off, Andrew, thanks so much for coming and spending your time with us. We appreciate it. Thank you for your insight. Everybody, make sure you go follow Andrew. And, of course, make sure you follow my guys, Chase and Shane. I always appreciate. So, anyway, jeez, you guys are killing me.
All right, bye.
Get out of here. Goodbye. So long.